I've always had pretty good speed, Jerry, and then again, when I get on the base paths, I love to run. So, and I study the pitchers quite a bit, and the last few days I haven't been playing, so but I knew maybe they might use me as a pinch runner, so I study the pitchers all the time, and so I got a good view of the ball game from the bench. But and a lot of people think you steal on the catcher, but you don't. You steal on the pitcher. The only time I think you steal on the catcher is if on a delayed steal, and that's when you catch the catcher napping a little bit. But certain guys, I think I study a pitcher a little different than most guys. I watch the heel of their feet, and I think that some guys can't do it, but it's a tough way. That's why a lot of the plays at first base on me are close, because I do watch the heel, and they might catch me leaning a little bit, but then I get back, and so some guys will watch his shoulder. Only on a left-hander, I don't watch the heel. I have to watch his front shoulder, and they generally tip it off that way. So, I've talked with Maury Wills about it. I've been to a couple of his clinics when I was just in high school, and he was playing with the Dodgers, and he does the same thing, although sometimes he likes to take a walking lead and other times he doesn't. So me, I've never taken a walking lead before, excepting at second base when I'm trying to steal third base, which I think is a lot easier to steal than second base.
Third is easier to steal than second?
Yeah, because you can get a much bigger lead, and you can be moving a little bit more than you can at first base, see.
Our guest today is Charlie Adams. He's the Area Director for Occupational Safety and Health Administration of the Department of Labor. Mr. Adams, you conducted a seminar at Tarrant County Junior South Campus in Fort Worth in which you talked to a number of business leaders here about occupational safety and hazards, the health aspects, the law which governs the way they must treat their employees and what can be expected by them from the federal government. In a word, what is it that you do? What is it that your relationship becomes with an employer in a safety or health situation?
We have a couple of things that we are required to do. First, we must acquaint the employer with what exactly what is expected of him by the government so that he will comply with the Williams-Steiger Act. And after we have knowledge that he is familiar with the act, we have a requirement to go into his place of business and ensure that he's complying with the federal standards.
Well, the Williams-Steiger Act, that was, what, 1970, enacted early this year, right?
Early last year, yes,
And
April
that-
1970. 71, yeah.
And it tells exactly what an employer must do for the health and safety of his employees.
It is the act that was developed, passed by Congress and signed into law, and it does have a set of federal standards, which is a part of the law, which tells the employer exactly what's expected of him.
Now, do you only act as an enforcement agency? If someone has a problem, do they come to you, or do you go out to employers looking for problems?
We have consultative services, and we have an educational program, of which this was a part today.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have a compliance requirement that forces us or allows us to visit the employer and tell him where he is not in compliance with the law.
Now, let's take a specific example. We have a program on Channel 8 called Contact 8.
Yes.
Recently, a man who lives in Tarrant County, but not in Fort Worth, called us and said that he worked for a sawmill or a cabinet shop, something that generated sawdust. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
We knew no one else to contact, so we contacted the health department. And they were apparently afraid to do anything about it. Should we have contacted you?
You could have contacted us. The employee could have contacted us, and we are required, when we receive a complaint from the employee, to go to the site and check out the validity of his complaint.
Now, suppose that you had gone to this particular place and you had found that, in fact, the employer was in violation, that these people needed gas masks or breathing devices of some sort or better ventilation. Then what does the law allow you to do to that employer?
The law allows us to write a compliance report after we have identified the violation and have discussed this with the employer, and to cite him for an alleged violation with the possibility of his being penalized for having violated the federal standards.
Are they stiff penalties? Can you hurt him?
We can hurt him, but we generally have a lot of factors that are included when we determine exactly what the penalties will be.
If you're going to pick one area where there are more violations today, of the more threats, let's say, to the safety of workers, what general field is that in the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
You mean what particular industry?
Yeah.
The federal government, when they began this program, they decided that there was 5 target areas that we would check into more frequently. And these target areas were determined because of the high incident rate of in this industry. And they're the meat packing industry, the wood industry, the wood products industry, longshoring and maritime activities, of which we have none.
Right.
Mobile homes, and sheet metal and roofing in the construction area.
Okay. What seems to be generally the threat? They just don't provide the proper safety facilities? I would think, and I don't see it here, that perhaps the people who work high in buildings, we've had a number of instances where people have fallen from high buildings because they weren't protected. That would seem to me to be a threat.
Well, this is a severe threat, but it doesn't have a high frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And although in some of your construction areas you do have a lot of people who fall and are killed, but the frequency of occurrence does not exist particularly because of high-level activities.
Do you have statistics for the biggest problem in the Dallas-Fort Worth area? What is the
We have general statistics. We find that generally when we go into an industry, we find those basic things wrong that cause most people to be hurt, such as poor housekeeping, failure to comply with our electrical code.
What about locally here in Dallas-Fort Worth? What industry hurts the most people?
I couldn't really say because we don't have the actual experience of each of these industries. I would surmise, though, that the target industries that the national government identified would probably be the high frequency activities in the Dallas-Fort Worth area also.
What is the process for an employee who feels that he has a legitimate complaint?
He can simply call us. We're in the telephone directory, and we're downtown Dallas, and tell us that he has a complaint that he would like to have us look at. We send him a complaint form, and he in turn fills out the complaint form and sends it back to us, and we have a high priority for checking that particular complaint that he has identified.
Should he call you before or after an incident, or does it matter?
He should call us when he finds out that there's something that he wants that he thinks should be corrected, needs to be checked.
Should he also talk to you, say, after he's been hurt?
Well, he doesn't have to be hurt to file a complaint.
But if he has been hurt, can he talk to you?
Yes, he can. We would receive it, and you would give it the same attention as though he had not been hurt. The fact that he's hurt has no importance to us as far as checking it is concerned.
Our guest today has been Charlie Adams, the Area Director for Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the Department of Labor. Jim and Jean will be back right after we pause for this.
The only limitation I would make would be order of battle, let's say information directly related to troop safety and to the safety of the nation, like our location of our Poseidon submarines. But in all other areas, I think that we can only tolerate a degree of privacy with respect to individuals, be they citizens or be they the President of the United States. But beyond privacy, all activities should be open to public scrutiny, because how can you say, Mr. President, I agree with you or I disagree with you if you don't know what he's doing?
I know what you're saying. We have been very, very grateful for the splendid cooperation of people in the Fort Worth, Dallas area. More than 31,000 beds have been made available already. We still need, I think, about 9,000 more.
Are the
Very,
calls
very grateful.
are the calls coming in pretty frequently?
We're very encouraged.
Will you also have a transportation problem for this large number of people?
Well, you can imagine the logistics of transporting and feeding 100,000 people. We do need a number of buses that will be able to transport the people from various meetings.
How about feeding?
We have the good fortune of having a local Fort Worth firm, Jetrons, who will be feeding about 30 to 40,000 people each evening.